Hey guys, Jonathan here to bring you the news that Portal Games has announced the English release of Play Smart. Play Smart is a book by Ignacy Trzewiczek of Portal Games, whom you may know better from his board game design, but actually began his career in the world of tabletop games from a role-playing perspective. We recently got the chance to interview Ignacy on the event of the 20th anniversary of Portal Games. We talked a lot about his backstory, the history of the industry, and how he got started creating role-playing supplements and expansions and writing about being a role player. Of course, today he's concentrating on traditional tabletop board games, but his role-playing history roots do run deep, and they are bringing that back because of the 20th anniversary of Portal and the 10th anniversary of this book in particular, which again is called Play Smart, with the subtitle An Insightful Advice on How to Be a Successful GM. According to the press release, the book was inspired by another book called Play Dirty by John Wick. If you're not familiar, that has nothing to do with avenging fallen dogs. In fact, it is a book, I believe there are actually a couple books under this banner, which have a series of essays that are all about, as a GM in any kind of role-playing game, how you can get your players more involved, more invested by using some dirty tricks, you might call them. Essentially making your players feel a little bit worse about how they're doing, so that later on, as a result, they'll feel better when things start to go their way. An interesting concept to be sure. It does not sound like the Play Smart book takes this kind of quote-unquote dirty approach to these things. I don't think it has that kind of a tactic in mind. Based on reading Ignacy's other sets of books that were released in English, Board Games That Tell Stories, I can only guess that these will include a series of delightful articles and essays with tips and tricks, probably a lot of personal stories about Ignacy's own games and some of the things that he's run, who he's played with, how he's done it, what types of campaigns he's run, different settings. The book was released in Poland 10 years ago, but not in any other language. This is the first time it's going to have an official translation available outside of Poland. So some people may have already read it who are watching or listening to this right now, but I am not one of them, so I can only speculate. I'm very curious to find out exactly which games Ignacy is talking about, because of course the role-playing landscape 10 years ago was very different from the role-playing landscape today, so it might just be an interesting trip down memory lane or experience for the first time of what kinds of games people were playing back then and how. And I wonder how much those stories and that advice is going to translate to modern role-playing game players, if it will be just as useful. My guess is, for the most part, it will, because I think the role of the GM, while it has evolved, in the last 10 years, it hasn't evolved that much, and hopefully there will be a lot of carryover between the two time periods. In our interview with Ignacy, he mentioned that there was going to be a translation to English of one of these books. There were a total of 6 under this line called the Game Master's Almanac series, and it didn't sound like they were looking into translating any more of these books because of the time and effort it takes to do that, and perhaps the relatively niche appeal of the books compared to their more mainstream board games that they know are going to be a sure bet. But who knows, maybe if this sells well enough, we'll get to see what those other books in the series are. I would certainly be very interested to find out and to read those myself, especially as a fan of Portal Games and of Ignacy's writing. The book Play Smart is going to be available at Gen Con 2019 this August for a price of $25. That's a hardcover copy of the book Play Smart. Presumably it will also be released later on through the Portal Games website, maybe even through Amazon as an ebook version. They have not announced any details about that specifically. It could end up this is just a limited edition thing, and maybe we only see it at Gen Con or some other conventions through their website for a limited time. So if it's something that you're interested in, especially if you're looking for a hardcover copy, you want that collector's item, then you're probably going to want to jump on this as soon as you get the opportunity. As a GM myself, I'm very much looking forward to this. I do not consider myself a successful GM, so hopefully this book will be able to turn that around and maybe I'll have a higher opinion of myself. Let us know in the comments below. Are you a GM? Do you run a game like D&D or anything else? Have you read any other role-playing books? Do you think this is one that might help you out that you're looking forward to? Maybe you're a fan of the Play Dirty books by John Wick, or maybe you're just a fan of John Wick. Talk to us either way in the comments below or on Twitter, email, Facebook, etc. linked in our description. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more content and board game news from Roll for Crit.
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more board game content. Every little bit helps.
Please, we gotta eat.